If you would like to support the podcast and get some extra content while you're there, head on over to patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast and sign up. From the rewatch to the Q&A, we will have loads of content every week. So sign up, patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast. And now, here's the podcast. Welcome everybody. It's episode 393 of the Severe MMA podcast. My name is Sean Sheehan, aka Shawnee Podcasts, the Pod God. How are you all? Are you good? It's a beautifully cold December. I was going to say morning here, but it's like a morning after a mad night of mixed martial arts, and I am joined.
It's snowing here as well. I don't know if it's snowing down in Limerick, but it's been the last few days and today. No,
it's not here.
Kind of housebound now because you don't want to be risking it out there.
Housebound roundabout nowadays. Yeah, you couldn't be going nowhere, sure. My sister came out of her house the other day, fell in her arse. Staying out of it, lads. It's too cold. God bless poor Ian over there in Canada. He's like minus 48 degree. I don't know how.
Yeah. I remember there's some like meme around the last time Ireland got a bit of snow, and they were like, "Oh, you got a little bit of snow. That's nice." And it's like a train going through a huge ice cube, basically in Canada.
Yeah, the poor old Canadians get a lot worse than us anyway. But do you know what? We will get into a bit of the weather, a bit of MMA and all of that in a second. But before we do it, we must tell you that this episode of the podcast is brought to you, us and everyone, by our great friends over at Manscaped. And you know what? It's nearly Christmas time now. It's never too early to put on the holiday music. It's never too early to start talking about gifts. And you know what? It's getting to that point now. You need to be getting them, whether it's for a friend or the friend in your pants. You can make this season a season to be jolly with Manscaped. Do your little drummer boy a favour and use the Lawnmower 4.0 to avoid another silent night in the bedroom. Then add in Manscaped's top of the line shower products to have people thinking all I want for Christmas is you. Santa cares about his sack, and so should you. Look nice when you get naughty at manscaped.com and use the code SevereMMA for 20% off and free shipping also. I know, Graeme, you got your package as well during the week, didn't you? I got mine there last week. That new Manscaped shampoo and conditioner combo is absolutely brilliant. They've just upgraded it massively. The deodorant is great. That chapstick, I've been using it all the time. Absolutely brilliant. I'm telling you.
I was going to say, it arrived perfectly, that chapstick, because around this time of year, every fucking year, like,
yes,
my fucking lips are in fucking tatters.
The cold
peeling and just all this shit. Like
the chapstick is actually perfect for the cold. Like, there's like a 3-pack, and already 2 of mine have been robbed. So I've only one left. I'll be putting in the promo code SevereMMA and ordering more chapstick from Manscaped. But that Manscaped Platinum Package 4.0 is a one-stop shop for the man who deserves it all. It has everything needed to help you from to deck the halls from your face to your balls just in time for another mistletoe season. It is all the stuff from the Performance Package plus extra premium body wash, extra premium 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner, which I am raving about, the ultra premium and the ultra premium deodorant. That ultra premium deodorant as well, you need like one spray of it. Did you see Paddy Pimblett this week spraying fucking cologne all over himself? You won't need that with this Manscaped because it's really, really good and it'll last for a long time as well. It's the best way to stray it fresh from your Santa hat to your candy cane. It's still, the Lawnmower 4.0, the weed whacker for your nose and ear hair trimming. It has the proprietary advanced skin safe technology to protect your delicate parts, and it is waterproof as well. If you want in the shower or you want to use it, throw it under the tap or whatever it might be. It has the 4000K LED light to light the way for Rudolph. And once you've groomed your candy cane, it's time to make sure you're smelling you don't smell like a reindeer even with the Platinum Packages shower products. All Manscaped shower gel is sulfate free, vegan and made to have your skin feeling hydrated and smelling fresh. But smelling good doesn't stop at the shower. The Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant, Crop Reviver Ball Toner can solve stank problems all day long. When they touch your sack, you never go back. The Platinum Package 4.0 sitting under tree is guaranteed to put anyone in the holiday spirit. And for the stocking stuffer, add in the brand new Body Buffer, an incredible body scrubber that makes exfoliating easy and a lot cleaner than the old loofah. So get 20% off and free shipping with the code SevereMMA at Manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at Manscaped.com using the code SevereMMA. Manscaped, get your jingle balls ready for the holidays. Okay, right, Graeme, let's get into it. Mixed martial arts. What a weekend of mixed martial arts. And I feel like I've been spending the last 5 or 6 years preparing myself for a night like this and a weekend like this, because there was 10 finishes in a row, and then we had 2 massive decisions. We also had a big decision over in Bellator the night before, and between the Sabatello and Stotts, which I know maybe a fight not everyone has seen, but we will discuss it later on. But it was very funny, I think, that the 3 decisions were actually like the 3 layers of judging almost that we talk about, right? So, first of all, just quickly on the Stotts Sabatello one, we'll go through the fight later on, but there was 2 judges that got that fight, in my opinion, correct, and then 1 judge who got it, like, blatantly wrong.
50-45 right? wrong.
50-45 wrong. So, there you have your robbery decision. Now, it wasn't a robbery because 2 of the judges, Brian Minor, Eric Alone, 2 of the best judges in the world, got it right. Fair play.
It's just a terrible card from one judge.
Absolutely terrible card. So that's what a terrible card looks like, right? You go to the Blachowicz-Ankalaev fight, and you look at that and you see all the different cards, and it's a split draw. The cards are, going one way and the other and all. That to me is one. I went back and I watched the first round and I watched throughout the fight. That to me is a fight that you can argue many different ways, and you can look at it and go, like, I can agree with all of those cards and I can see them from all the different ways. And then you had the Paddy Pimblett Jared Gordon one, which in my opinion was in the middle. I thought Gordon won it. I thought it was a very, very close fight. And I think Pimblett winning was just kind of wrong, right? I don't think it was a robbery. I don't think it was a terrible decision, but it was a little bit different from the Blachowicz-Ankalaev one, where it wasn't like, okay, yeah, that can go loads of different ways. This one could have gone loads of different ways. There's no doubt about it. And if we're,
I suppose when you add in 2 extra rounds,
yes.
like there's potential 10-8s and stuff,
yes.
It does get a bit more murky. But personally, like, I thought both the co-main and the main, the winner didn't win.
Well, there was no winner in the main event.
Ankalaev, I think he should have won. I think he did win, but yeah, I think that one's 5 rounds and kind of close rounds and potential 10-8s and stuff like that. I think that's definitely a bit more murky, and a draw isn't exactly a terrible decision there. It's definitely disappointing, and it's kind of a strange situation and all that and all that stuff. But I do think that Ankalaev should have got his hand raised there. Yeah.
We'll get to the main event in a minute, but let's start with Paddy Pimblett, because it's really been a week dominated by Paddy Pimblett, and we'll talk about the fight first because that's the most important part, and we'll talk about the rest of it afterwards. We try to be a straight up journalistic endeavor here for the most part, and we'll talk about the fight. It was a very, very, very close fight. The weird thing about this fight as well, Graeme, here's your expectancy bias coming out again. I think people expected this fight to go a lot different to the way it went. Now, the one advantage...
I didn't. I don't think you did either. Did you?
But that's what I was just about to say. The one advantage that people like myself and you that have been watching, say, Paddy Pimblett from his Cage Warriors Day, that know him very, very well, knew that there was a possibility the fight would go this way. Look, there's a possibility anything can happen in mixed martial arts, but the possibility the fight went this way was probably a shocking thing for a lot of people, and it took their minds time to adjust to the fight like this, right? Just like I think in the main event, it took took time for people's mind to adjust to this not being the Paddy Pimblett fight anymore, not being the quote unquote robbery anymore, and the madness was ensuing. For me, like, I've seen Paddy Pimblett in fights like this before against Arnbach, and Julian Arosa and others. It's not like I've only seen Paddy Pimblett destroy people in the UFC. So that made me, I think, and yourself and a lot of other people who know Paddy Pimblett for a long time probably more able to call this down the middle than others who are expecting Paddy Pimblett to be the next Conor McGregor or to be the next Sean O'Malley or whatever it might be.
Do you think that's just the fans, or do you think I think the media and people who have been kind of following the scene probably thought the fight would go similar to where it went? I think maybe people who, you know, been kind of jumped on the bandwagon, the hype train or whatever people call it, I think those people maybe were expecting Paddy to go blow Gordon out of the water. But I think anybody who's been around and kind of, you know, seen both guys for a few fights at least would have predicted a close fight here.
I would not really agree, to be honest. Now, the reason I say that is because maybe you're giving too much credit to some of the media there. Honestly, and that's it more than anything else. You know, I think, like, a lot of the media, and it'd be the same for us if there was like a hype train came through, you know, CFFC or LFA or something. We might not know him that well, and it might be, you know, we might think, oh, this guy is absolutely amazing after a few fights, and then he gets into a fight like this and we see massive deficiencies and it takes our brain time to adjust. You know, that absolutely can happen, and to me that's kind of what happened here. But having said that, it was still a very, very close fight, and I think the slight difference there is, I think it was a close fight which Jared Gordon won. And I think a lot of other people think it was a Jared Gordon fight and there's no way Paddy Pimblett could have gotten a card here. I
think the cards don't help as well. Like, I think the first round was Gordon. I don't know. Paddy obviously thinks he won round 1 and 2. I think he lost both of those rounds, and I think he won round 3. Just because Gordon actually landed absolutely nothing, and although Paddy didn't land anything big, he landed the better stuff, in my opinion. That was clear enough that round. I don't know, people seem to have scored it another way. Maybe I need to go back and look at it and I missed something or something like that, but on first view, and I thought the first round was definitely Gordon. I thought the second round was Gordon, and I thought the third round was Paddy. The second round was the round where Paddy went for that kind of choke, wasn't it?
I'll just go through it quickly. The first round was, as you said, all those left hooks from Jared Gordon. He was landing left hook after left hook after left hook, and you know, it wasn't a shocking thing for me at all. I've seen this happen to Paddy before. Paddy was landing some leg kicks. There was some nice shots inside for Paddy. He landed a little kind of hooking right hand inside a couple of times. A much slower kind of paced Paddy, and I think, you know, he said he got an ankle injury, so maybe that was part of it. But I think he was slower from the start as well, and maybe that was designed because he knew this would be a closer fight as well. Jared Gordon was able to get on top late, was able to land a couple of shots, not anything too much, but
grazed himself on the head by an elbow as well.
Yeah. Exactly, 100%, exactly.
It was a bit of a scratch, but yeah, it's definitely maybe could have influenced some people, I suppose.
Yeah, if you're talking about a close round there and Paddy lands that elbow, absolutely. And to me, it wasn't enough. I thought Gordon won it. I just thought those left hands that he landed over and over and over were the most effective shots of the round. Now, it's a weird one with Paddy as well, and I think Aaron Bronstetter said it in an interview with him afterwards, and other people. Paddy's actually said this before. Paddy reacts weirdly to shots. I don't know if is it the hair or is it when he gets hit, he kind of jumps and he left, and you know, you can really see him. And sometimes maybe that is more evident on TV than it is actually live watching it there. And you know, which way do you score it? Then I'm not actually sure. But in the second round, Paddy was much more square in this, and maybe the reason again was the ankle, I'm not sure, but he was there to kind of be hit a lot more. But I think Jared Gordon kind of pushed him against the cage. They landed a few punches each. There was a takedown. Paddy went for the choke, wasn't able to get it. A lot of clinching again in this round. It was another close round where Jared Gordon landed some good punches. I would agree. I think you were kind of saying it there. The first round, I think Gordon won it. The second round was Gordon again, but very, very close. And then in the third round, Jared Gordon was holding him against the fence basically for 5 minutes. Landed absolutely nothing. Paddy didn't land much, but he was throwing those little knees when he was being held against the cage, throwing a few punches. And to me, that's enough. And I think that's the way MMA should be scored, where if a guy does nothing, throws no effective strikes, lands no effective strikes, has no effective grappling, holding someone against the cage is not effective grappling. Effective grappling is something that, you know, you get on a choke, you get on an armbar, you get on some sort of submission. Just staying in a position does not score. Like I always say, if you move from orthodox to southpaw, why should that score? If you just stay in southpaw for 5 minutes, should you score for that? It's the same as clinch. Like, this clinch is just a position that people hold. It's not an advantageous scoring position. Maybe you could say it's advantageous, but it's not scoring. And it wasn't advantageous for him because he did nothing with it. So, in my opinion, Paddy Pimblett definitely won that third round. That was, to me, that was the clearest round, to be honest, even though almost nothing happened and he did almost nothing and he got held against the cage for 5 minutes. But it was a low enough quality fight, if we're being honest.
Just before you go on, which round was the one? The second round was when Paddy went for the choke.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you think that was close?
I don't know. What did you think?
I didn't think, but like, I'm not a jiu-jitsu guy. Maybe it's something that,
I didn't think it was close either. It was one of those ones
we don't really see, but I didn't think that was close. And maybe the judges are putting a lot into that and thinking, he nearly had him there, and giving Paddy that second round. But for me, I think that second round is a close round, but I think the judges have to be, good enough to call that the right way, in my opinion. I think this is the wrong decision. It's not like as ridiculous as maybe I've seen some people say, but I do think it was a wrong decision, and that the judges should be able to, pick the winner as Jared Gordon from that fight, in my opinion. But maybe if I go back and watch it with a fine or two come, I might change my mind, but I really don't think so.
So here's how the judges scored it. Douglas Crosby, who was that judge who put in the terrible scorecard for Danny Sabatello, which we'll get to later on, he scored rounds 1 and 2 for Pimblett and the third for Gordon, the exact opposite of how I scored it. Chris Lee, who is a very, very good judge, scored the first round for Gordon, the second round for Pimblett and the third round for Pimblett. I think that's a very defensible card. I think there's nothing wrong with that at all. And then Ron McCarthy scored the first 2 rounds for Pimblett and the last for Gordon as well, the opposite of what I had. I have great respect for Ron McCarthy. I think he's a good judge, but the second round, I can see that. I can see the third.
What do you think won the second round for Paddy?
I don't. I think Gordon won it. I had Gordon won in the first round.
What do you think? Chris Lee and Douglas Crosby and Ron McCarthy, who all gave the second round to Paddy Pimblett, like what do you think made them give the round to Paddy?
I just think the fact that there wasn't really much in it. Like, Paddy was landing a couple of shots, as you said. He went for the choke. It wasn't massive there, but it should score somewhat. I don't think any of those rounds were blow-away rounds. Like the first one, maybe.
I think there was a couple of nice right hands mixed in with the lefts in the second round for Gordon as well, if I'm not misremembering. And I think that was, I think he won that round.
I think he won the round too. Like, the weird one about it, right? Even if you write off the second round, like I do think the second round was close, because sometimes we forget as well, and maybe we go overboard.
I do agree it was close, but at this level, I think the judges should be like. I know it's easy for me to say and all that, but it's definitely a difficult job. But I can see why people, especially with 2 in a row, the co-main event and the main, where maybe the right guy didn't get his hand raised. I think people have a right to kind of be annoyed at this.
I don't think it was perfect judging. I don't think the right guy won, to be honest. I thought Gordon won it, but it was too close of a fight. Sometimes as well, you have to do something a little bit extra to make sure of it. We say it all the time, close rounds are close rounds. And if you're a fighter, can you really blame a judge if you haven't set yourself apart? In
that third round, when he has him up control, he can land. He does have opportunities to land at least the same stuff that Paddy's landing, but he doesn't. So he definitely, has himself to blame partly. But as I said,
it wouldn't have mattered anyway.
It wouldn't have mattered then. No. But I still do think he did enough.
Yeah, if he'd won that third round in all 3 judges' cards, he would have lost the split decision. That would have been the only difference, because 2 of the judges already had it for him. But yeah, look, it was. I'll say it again. Look, the reason this is, and it's funny to say this, the reason this is so controversial and people are talking about it is because it was Paddy Pimblett. It's because it was a big co-main event fight. It's because it's Paddy Pimblett's first move up the top of the up towards the top, and because
he's so polarizing,
exactly.
Especially after midweek, and some people,
we'll get to that.
He's probably maybe turn some people against him with that, but maybe over time that will dissipate, and things move on pretty quick in MMA and people forget. But I do think there was some missteps there, and there was maybe a bit of extra pressure on him, and I don't think his post-fight, I definitely won that fight, helps either. I think there was definitely, the first kind of major missteps by Paddy in the UFC. But, you know, he got the win, and the history books will say he got the win. So, you know, MMA forgets pretty quickly. It'll probably, you know, move on as if he'd won the decision, you know, undisputedly, if that's a word. So maybe it won't affect him and people will forget or whatever. But, you know, he's kind of on thin ice now with a few fans. I'd say he'd want to be careful what he's saying, you know, rein it in a little bit, and not his personality, but just his, you know, I don't know, just his
shite.
Yeah, just a shy talk, yeah.
Look, the last thing in the fight, and we'll talk about the rest of the hoopla around it. Look, the reality of this, and remember this was a low-level lightweight fight. Like, this was bottom of the barrel quality in terms of lightweight in the UFC. It really was. Some people tell you different. Some people tell you Paddy Pimblett's, you know, prospect of the year and stuff, which is just absolutely crazy. But look, I feel like we've fairly talked about Paddy Pimblett over the last while and talked about his level. This showed his level is pretty low in the division. Like, Jared Gordon is a good fighter. You know, he basically went out there, held his hand high and throw the hook and almost won the fight. It's low level stuff. Low level.
Paddy Pimblett really needs to sort out getting caught with that left hand, you know.
He never will. He never will, yeah. Graeme. Like, Paddy is not a top level fighter. I think we need to just forget about that now at this stage. Like, it's just been proven. He's 28 next week, as he said. He's had a ball of fights. He's been fighting for years and years and years. It's just not going to happen. He's 23.
But like, if he dedicated himself, didn't get fat, like, did everything properly, like he could definitely be better than he is, at least. Yeah,
he could be better than he is, but you're never breaking that gap to Islam Makhachev. You're never breaking that gap to Dustin Poirier or anything like that. There's just no way. It's just not. We can delude ourselves into thinking he will be. He struggled to beat Jared Gordon. With all Jared Gordon, an okay fighter, barely UFC quality, and he probably lost that fight. No, it's not going to do it there. I think we just need to stop that shite now. Let's talk about the other stuff though around it. Look, obviously this week we had the whole Ariel malarkey with Paddy. I'll give you my take on it quickly, Graeme, and then you can talk about it as well. Obviously Paddy went on his podcast, everyone has surely seen it at this stage, and he called Ariel a rat and a liar. And aside from that, on the podcast, it was one of the most embarrassing hour-long interviews I've ever seen in my life. Honestly, the way he just sucked up to Dana. Well, I was talking to someone about the other day. I described it as like, imagine if you're like a young girl and you're a fan of the Killers and you get to interview Brandon Flowers and you just spend an hour like opening up your fucking diary that you've been writing about Brandon Flowers for the last
do you remember Brandon when you said you didn't like somebody from another band?
I always didn't like him.
That was exactly it. Was cringeworthy, embarrassing.
Even his face is annoying to me.
It was. Honestly, I don't think you could have looked worse in terms of being cool. Like, do you know
if he came out and said it on another podcast or said it, and was wrong or whatever you think he's right or he's wrong, just the fact that he was doing it to Dana, and Dana was like, "Oh, this is the best podcast I've ever heard. Like, say more." And Paddy's like, "Yeah, say more. He's such a fucking that Ariel. I hate him and all this stuff." He's making money off the fighters. It's like, Dana, you're talking to Dana. Like,
talking to Dana White. You're talking.
What do you like? Have some fucking sense. Like, what's going on here?
It was. And even outside of the Ariel stuff, forget about the Ariel stuff. There was so much stuff. Like, the weirdest part to me was Dana White as well, like asking Paddy Pimblett what city he was from, and then acting like
that accent. Where do you get that accent?
Where do you get that accent? Oh my god, it was cringeworthy. And then Paddy talking about how great the Ultimate Fighter is and all of it, and as well, do you know? And I don't give a shit about politics or any of that, right? But Paddy Pimblett's always like, fuck the Tories and all of this, and he's. He's talking like the biggest fucking Tory in America, and then saying like, fighters are paid what they fucking with, and all of this. Is like, what are you talking about? You're the biggest suck up of all time. You're embarrassing yourself. Do you know that thing at the moment that they say you got the ick? You got the ick. I feel like fans just got the ick for Paddy Pimblett this week. He went from cool and likable and kind of the darling of MMA to this guy is like, oh no, he's just so embarrassing.
Yeah, the crowd reaction as he walked in though, and the wigs and the t-shirts and all would tell you otherwise. But I think maybe hardcore is more are paying attention to the situation. Maybe
when you buy a ticket,
everything moves on so quick, everybody forget about it. But I do think it was a really bad look. It was just cringe. The whole thing was cringe,
very cringe. But when you buy a ticket, you pay £100 to go out and watch the Paddy Pimblett fight, basically, and that's what this show was. Of course you're going to ignore all of that. And maybe the next week they won't ignore it. Maybe after the kind of shitty fight, they probably won't ignore it anymore. There was
this is going to make them even more Paddy fans. We see, Paddy won that fight. All the haters. You know what I mean?
Oh, there will be a bit about that. There will be, and look, that's what fandom is. There's absolutely no problem with that.
Yeah, it's a good crack.
Yeah,
we need people like Paddy. Like
we do. Yeah,
Paddy's great for MMA. He's great for the UFC. Like, love him or hate him, he's getting emotion out of people. He's making people care. People are livid about this fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. 100. And it's one of those ones where it's difficult to call down the middle and analyze correctly. And like that's what I'm trying to do here. Like I feel like I have been more than complimentary of Paddy Pimblett in terms of the decision and all that. I've called it as I truly believe it, but I also told you there my opinion on Paddy Pimblett as a fighter and his long-term prospects, and that's maybe the opposite of that. So here's look on the Ariel thing as well. Look, Ariel obviously came on his show talked about paying for an interview and all of this, and look, I'm not going to relitigate what Ariel said. Anyone with a brain watching that knows that Ariel absolutely destroyed him. Then like Paddy was going on different, he went on Instagram a couple of times, and Graeme Byland was just another absolute cringe master, just putting up a video where he's like talking slowly in this fucking weirdo way and just looking into the camera. It's like
the one that just cut off in the middle.
Yeah, just cut off. You can't even post the video. Like what? Oh my god! It felt like they were trying to go on the defensive very, very quickly. And like Paddy Pimblett went through his comment section Instagram, found the one comment that was like agreeing with him and posted it. And there was on his own Instagram, like if you ever go on anyone's Instagram, it's always complimentary of them. And it was just comment after comment. Ariel had the receipts. Ariel made you look like a mug. Why did you lie?
Just like, this is definitely mental stress, and
hugely.
That definitely would have taken away from your performance, and I don't know. It was just disaster really for Paddy. But as I said, the history books, I think he said this as well, the history books state that he won the fight, and MMA fans don't really have, there's so much happening, there's so many fights that you can barely remember half the fighters and all that stuff. So things will move on. But yeah, I think
but it's one of those ones, right? People will move on, and the next time we'll be excited for a Paddy fight and all. But there is no recovering from this in terms of the way people perceive you widely, if you want to put it that way. Like, people now look at Paddy Pimblett as that cringy Dana White bootlicker who got ruined by Ariel, and that's a fact, right? The next time we come on, we'll be excited for a Paddy fight, and there'll be people blowing him up and calling him prospect of the year and all of that. A lot of it with the media as well, because they know Paddy Pimblett get clicks. If we're being honest, now we don't dealing clicks or anything like that. That's not the way we work.
We don't get any clicks.
We don't get any clicks. Sign up on our Patreon, patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast. That's how, we get ourselves. And we'd be doing this anyway if no one was listening to it, or, just for our base fan group. But like, it's the reality of it that Paddy Pimblett is good business, and people will continue to cover him. And there's this... there is this weird thing we are going to have to deal with Paddy, where like the reality of it is going to have to be deciphered for his whole career, whether that's his ability inside the cage, or people liking him, or whatever it might be, because there will be a big fan base of people who will still like him. There will be a big fan base of people who forget what happened here, but the whole fan base, not the whole, but like 99% of the fan base was like, hate or love Paddy, but he's like, this is him, this is his authentic self, this is, he's kind of cool or whatever. Now I think there's a large percentage of people that's like just don't think he's cool anymore. The press conference as well before it, a lot of cringe stuff there. Someone asked him about, that doctor that he was taking a picture of with the guy that got caught for some drugs or something. And the guy asked the most easy layup question of all time. It's like, it basically said, here, Paddy, tell me why you're not connected to this guy and we'll move on. And Paddy ate his head off and then he was just moaning for the rest of the thing. His post by press conference was awful as well. Just not
even bringing
acknowledging
up
was close.
trying to make a joke with Joe straight away.
Oh, so cringe.
How much are you paying me for this?
So cringe, as Ariel called it, that knee slapper. we never got the answer for that. Yeah, it was absolute cringe afterwards. This roaring for fight at night as well after a shitty low level fight. Absolute cringe stuff. Look, it just
we sound like we're just hating on Paddy here, but like I'm actually like, we've been following Paddy for a long time. We really enjoy Paddy overall. Like as I said, he's great for the sport and all, but yeah, I don't think there's much argument for Paddy's in the right here in this situation. Ariel, as you said, kind of came with the receipts and made it pretty clear what had happened. And if Ariel was lying, I'm sure Paddy and Graeme Boylan would have added some context or would have shown their own receipts and they didn't. So yeah, I think it's pretty hard to make an argument that Paddy won this round.
Of course. Ariel played the voice now where Paddy was begging him to come on the show. Like after that, like what? The only thing from Ariel's point of view, I don't believe necessarily that this was the first time he was asked to beg for an interview, because like I think that's happened a lot in MMA down through the years.
I suppose Ariel is such a big platform that like the fighters would be kind of
there's a lot of
most fighters, unless you're at the very very top, would be kind of stupid to turn down the exposure.
Yeah, indeed. It's a weird one though, like, because fighters do the interviews because they'll get more famous. They'll, even like, let's say I interviewed Conor during the year, like I got, 500,000 views or whatever. A lot of people saw that. A lot of people got an update on him and his career and all of that, and it makes sense for the fighters to do them, even if you're, the biggest fighter in the history of the sport and everything like that. And for Paddy Pimblett, like the whole thing as well about Paddy, right? Is it just
like maybe you could make like kind of like I see where he's coming from. If Paddy hadn't have initiated the let's do something, you know what I mean? Like I just like trying to look at it from both sides, but it's just hard.
It just feels like he thinks he's a lot. He's very big, right? He's very, very big. And I said it before, I think Paddy Pimblett is way bigger than Conor McGregor ever was on the way up, because Conor McGregor came before him and kind of ploughed that furrow, and now like lads are bigger than he was before. So I'm not saying Paddy Pimblett's not big, but it's built on a very, very crumbling foundation in terms of his ability inside the cage and like his personality as well. Right, there are a lot of things with Paddy. Like, I believe Paddy is real and I like his personality for the most part, but there's lots of things that Paddy has said in the past, said this week, and will say in the future that are going to kind of put people off him in very big ways, in a lot, but then in like just getting the ick kind of ways as well. And
well, like if Paddy was going out there and submitting people in a round or knocking people out in a round,
exactly,
it changes things. But
he's not gonna continue to do that if he rises through the ranks, if he gets better opponents. Like Jared Gordon, he's an alright fighter. Like, he's an alright fighter, and that's the best thing you could say about him. Like, would Jared Gordon be nowhere ever near the top 15? Like, you want to put it that way. And Paddy Pimblett is in his prime now. Don't forget that either. It's just not realistic. It's just not realistic, this also. And that was a big part of this as well, right? You've Ariel like openly anti-Paddy tweeting on Saturday night, which I was kind of like a little bit shocked by.
Oh, I didn't even see that. What
he was just like saying this is the biggest robbery in the history of the UFC, and then laughing at Paddy's, he, as I said, he called it a knee slapper and everything like that, which, he has a right to do, no problem. He got attacked and called a liar.
I can kind of understand. on it, to be honest. But I would, hearing that, I would have thought that Ariel would, not put that out publicly.
Because he's spoken about that before. He did things like that with Fedor and he regretted it. But anyway, my point here is, if Ariel is not, even if Ariel is not against you, if Ariel is not for you, he's the biggest content creator in this sport, right? And if he's not there, then look, we all know it. Any sports we follow, there's journalists out there, podcasters and stuff. People listen to their opinion, and all they do is just parrot it, right? You know who's a good fighter because you listen to Ariel, right? You know who's a good player because you listen to second captains or whatever it might be in soccer, or you listen to the off the ball, and you know who's the next good up and coming hurler or whatever it might be. Some people just pick up their opinions from journalists like that, and Ariel's the biggest journalist in our sport. The amount of people now who are not going to be like fed Paddy Pimblett is the greatest of all time by someone like Ariel, or not quite that, but you get what I mean. Like, it's not going to be positive from Ariel going on here forward. And I'm sure he will. He'll do it journalistically correct after it all blows down and all. But that massive fan base is not going to be there for Paddy anymore. And that's a lot bigger than the Twitter storm. It's a lot bigger than, Paddy putting on a stupid interview or anything like that, because that massive fan base is there. It's not just Twitter. It's not just Instagram. This is Twitter, Instagram, and the people actually consuming the biggest content creator in the sport. And that is really, really, really a huge thing. I'm telling you, people might not acknowledge that, but it's absolutely huge. And I think that's not a good thing for Paddy Pimblett. Like, whatever about Graeme Boylan, maybe it doesn't seem like he has the logic to do it. But what he should be doing now is getting on to Ariel Monday morning and go, look, Ariel, it was a misunderstanding. Even if he thinks he's wrong or whatever, apologise, say, look, could we get Paddy on the show? We will.
You think Graeme Boylan's going to?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But that's what a manager should be doing. What is your job as a manager? Your job as a manager should be to have no ego, to do what's best for your fighter, to turn things around for them, to get them paid and do all these different things. If you're a proper manager, right? Is that going to happen? I don't think anyone would disagree with that, would they? Like, is it good for Paddy Pimblett to be like on the outs with Ariel? I don't think anyone could agree with that, right? I don't think anyone could agree with that. So what's the manager's job? The manager's job should be to get you in the ins with Ariel. We've seen people down through the years, like, because I'd be friendly with Ariel, I'm sure you as well. I've had fighters beg me to try to get on Ariel's show. Oh, will you send Ariel a DM, try to get on the show, and things like that. That's happened down through the years. He's a massive guy in the sport. We can't forget that. And it's a big mistake, even for Paddy, the Barstool stuff as well, like, Jesus. Like, the Barstool said they gave him $1 million. He said Barstool gave him $1 million. How long is that going to last? Like, where is he when that goes? where and Barstool didn't really do much this week. They had their own rough and rowdy thing, and they had the Army Navy game or whatever. Dave Portnoy flew out, put up like one video about Paddy, and that was it. There wasn't much there.
The amount of times though I've heard Barstool mentioned with Paddy Pimblett's name is probably enough to make them keep betting up. Barstool
are also the place that if you leave Barstool, they'll never ever ever mention you again. And
oh really?
Yeah, that could be the case. But
sake.
we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, let's move on and let's talk about the
Paddy gets clicks though, so maybe they'll make an exception.
Yeah, it's weird as well, right? Because the whole Ariel thing, we might as well stay on this for another while. Ariel, like, as an outlet that doesn't work on clicks at all, I think maybe twice ever, right, we've made money from YouTube videos in like in a substantial way. There's very little to be made from YouTube video, and we make money off Conor McGregor.
Unless you put an ad every fucking 3 to 5 minutes, and it's just fucking unwatchable and ruins it for everybody.
Look, that fucking 450,000 video or whatever, we were able to buy our t-shirts that we basically gave away for free for most of them out of that, and that was it. And then we had one years ago, remember when the press conference was in London, I think Niall was at it maybe or something, and it did like 900,000 views or something. You'd make a bit of money out that, but like, people, and this is the wider point of it as well, right? A lot of people covering MMA, especially on the way up, are doing it for free. Like Ariel's not doing it for free, but Ariel is getting people on. He's not.
But Ariel would be on a wage. Like he wouldn't be.
He's on a wage,
like,
yeah.
oh, you got 1 million views this week, so you're getting this much money.
That's exactly what he said. That's exactly what he said. But there's two different points to this here, right? Ariel is doing it because he wants to put on a good show. He's not doing it based on clicks or anything like that. There's some people, I'm sure, that, and I know there are websites out there that pay you based on how many clicks you get on a website and things like that. We've all seen that down through the years. You know,
we're of course,
like
you know, you want more clicks. If you're Ariel, you want more clicks because you want people to be interested in your guest, or you know, to have something interesting said in your interviews or whatever, that people are clicking on it. That's obviously a sign that you've done a good job.
Yeah,
but it's not affecting his bottom line.
No, and Ariel just wants to put on a good show, and I think he says that, and I think anyone with a brain would acknowledge that as well, right? So he has a massive platform. He wants to put on a good show, and you should want to get your name out there and, you know, to the biggest platform you can get it. There is a relationship there, right? And I think, look, it's not complicated. It works well for everyone.
Yeah,
for both
everybody
people.
helps you. You scratch my back.
Exactly. And you look at it, right, with Paddy Pimblett on the way up, right? So obviously Cali Steve and Sean Betts were out there interviewing him. John King did a great job of interviewing him on the way up. Did you think, like, and people seem to have a big misunderstanding of this. Do you think those lads are getting money for that, right?
No, you're losing money every event you attend.
You know, so those lads paid money to go and interview Paddy Pimblett to earn no money and gave him the time of day. And look at some of those interviews now. They've done very, very good numbers on SevereMMA. We still haven't made any money out of them because it's over like fucking 10 years or whatever it is, right? And I'm sure John King's one did big numbers as well. And when Ariel got him on early, and you know, I'm sure it got Paddy Pimblett's name out there. And no, like, they did that for free to bring him up, and now he can't reciprocate. That to me is a real sign of, like,
weren't people campaigning for Paddy to be on Ariel's show?
Exactly. It's a really weird thing, and I suppose we are more invested in this because we interview a lot. You know, a lot of the way people on the way up, like Andrew back in the day, and Ian and Andy now, and Quilsha and other people on the Old Triangle, and on, you know, our YouTube as well. Even me a small bit, and I'm sure you've interviewed people down through the years as well, Graeme. We're invested in that more than a lot of people. And I think I saw Chris Fields talking about it this week. I hope the fighters actually, you know, realise what they have and realise how big it is to get the coverage like that as well. And for the fighters to kind of turn their back on you after that, and turn your back is a weird thing, but like to kind of forget you when you've given them all that coverage. And this goes for Ariel as well. And the biggest, this is not just like, oh, you forgot the small guy once you got big. I think that is a real bad sign of a person.
Just remember who helped you along the way. Like, yeah,
exactly, 100%. And we're lucky in Ireland. Like, all the fighters have kind of been like that. And, you know, thanks to yourself and the other lads with great relationships with them. Me, not so much. No one likes me. But yeah, I just it's a real bad sign of a person, I think. And, you know, look. I mentioned we interviewed Conor McGregor a few months ago. He's the biggest star in the history of the sport. And why did he do the interview with us? Like, I'm not going to explain, right? We all know it's self-explanatory. Just because you have. But like, it is just one of those where the fighters all the time ask, like, you know, talk about loyalty and all. And your job as a media member is not to be loyal. Your job is to tell the truth and tell the facts out there. And your job, and this is a reason why you shouldn't be paying the fighters either to do interviews, because if you pay a fighter to do an interview, it's like an agreed upon relationship, right? A media member and a fighter should not have an agreed upon relationship. It should be, I do an interview, you do an interview with me, I can ask you absolutely whatever I want. And in MMA, right, it's not even 99 times out of 100. It's 9,999 times out of 10,000. It's positive. It's always positive in mixed martial arts. Always, in terms of interviews. Like, even me, myself, I would think I like to bring up issues and ask people about things. But when I interview someone, it's always like fun. It's always friendly. It always is. And like, sometimes fighters act like you're just trying to bring them down. You're like, it's so weird. It's so weird. Like, there are a couple of websites that try to do that, but like, say Bloody Elbow and others, but like when Crooklyn has interviewed people down through the years, it's always been positive. Like the vast majority of people doing it are always positive, and it's this weird relationship. Sometimes the fighters think the media are out to get them. They're absolutely not. If I want to sit down with someone for 20 minutes, I'm going to like talk to Sinead Kavanagh and get her story, or talk to Leah McCord before her last fight and see how she comes back from that from that Sinead Kavanagh fight and see where she's going to go next. Or you talk to Conor and ask him about he's coming back from injury and things like that. I don't know. It's just a weird relationship. Anyway, let's move on and let's talk about more stuff.
Well, like, just before you move on, I think, some of them are a very sensitive bunch, but it is a strange situation where people are like talking about you. We're talking about people on a podcast. People are talking about you, writing about you, saying things, it probably is a bit strange before, at the start at least, or, some people find it hard to handle, like, and it probably is like if somebody was writing an article every week or doing videos about you, critiquing you or critiquing me, you'd probably be like, here, fuck this fucking guy, like, you know what I mean? So you can't understand it, but yeah, it's just it's just they're sensitive, like, they are fighters or warriors or whatever, but they're humans as well who are sensitive, and we kind of forget that a little bit sometimes, especially people on Twitter maybe forget that these people are human beings and stuff, and some of the criticism can be hard to take or whatever, but yeah, it's just understanding the game, and understanding that you're a business here, and your fighter is your business, and you've got to keep these relationships. Don't burn bridges. Maybe it could all be buried with a phone call from, for example, Paddy or Graeme to Ariel, but it's never going to be the same, really. Paddy and Ariel were kind of nearly like more friendly than maybe 90% of relationships Ariel would have with fighters. They seemed a bit more kind of pally. So yeah, it's just a really stupid thing to do for any fighter to burn a relationship like that with such a big platform in the sport where there isn't that many big platforms.
Yeah, and the way he did it too, we won't really get that, but the way he did it with Dana it was so embarrassing the way he did it. It was just a terrible all around week for Paddy Pimblett. The only good thing is he got to win, and that's it, and he moves on, and we will move on too. Right, the main event. We were talking about the main event. Look, we won't go over it massively again for 40 minutes this time, but just a quick, like literally one sentence, go through it. 1 and 2. Sorry, round 1, very close. I went back and watched it. And look, the fight came down to round 1. I scored it for Ankalaev live, but going back watching it last night, I do think Blachowicz won it. He landed some lovely leg kicks. He landed some right hands inside. Ankalaev landed some right hands as well. It was a very, very close round. But I do think Blachowicz won it on rewatch. I thought live he won it. Ankalaev won it. The second round, it was definitely a Blachowicz round. He kicked the legs off of Ankalaev. The third was, to me, a closer round as well, because Ankalaev landed lots of shots, lots of big punches. But the leg kicks, to me, were the most effective shots of that third round. And I think Blachowicz won that. Ankalaev won the fourth then and won the fifth. There was no doubt about that. The only thing in the fifth was a 10-8. I don't like looking at the stats, but it was 17 punches to 0, which is you can say whatever you want about that, but he did land some good shots. He did. You talk about the 3Ds. Look, we're looking at a 10-8. Did he have domination? Yes. Did he have duration? Yes. Did he have damage? I'd say yes, but did he have overwhelming damage? Probably didn't have overwhelming damage. This is the sort of 10-8. This is the sort of 10-8 18 months ago that would have been given, and no one would have batted an eyelid. But since the 10-8s have changed, we don't see this given as a 10-8 as much anymore. I like the fact that it's a 10-8. Like the weird thing, I wasn't even thinking about it as a 10-8 because
if he didn't have his hand like kind of pinned and just, I don't know, it definitely seemed like a 10-8 to me. But even if it wasn't a 10-8, I think the first round you mentioned that maybe the leg kick, maybe watching it back, I haven't watched it back, so maybe this is wrong. This is just a maybe suggestion, but maybe because you knew the damage that came in the future rounds on the leg kicks, that you put more weight into the leg kicks by Jan in the first round?
I don't know
if they were that big in the first round. Like, I'm trying to remember, maybe
they were nice. There was one big one and about 4 kind of nice ones, but Ankalaev really didn't do much until the last 90 seconds of that round. He landed one good right hand, he landed one other nice right hand, and everything else was kind of whiffing. And Blachowicz himself landed
body
two
kicks
nice enough shots.
Stabbing the body were nice as well, though, I thought.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't think there was much. It was a close round, no doubt about it. Like, this is one of those fights where it can go either way. Like, if you look at the 5 rounds, to me, 2 and 3 went to Blachowicz, 4 and 5 went to Ankalaev. Maybe you have a 10-8 in there. Maybe you could make it a draw, and in 1 can go either way. So literally, it's 2-2, 1 swinging. So like this isn't. There's no way this is a robbery or anything like that, and it was a draw as well. We need to remember Blachowicz didn't win the fight; it was a draw. What did you think overall? Like, having kind of thought about it for a few hours.
Yeah, like I thought the best result that Jan could have hoped for was a draw, but I could see you can make an argument for that. I don't think it's a robbery, but I do think the wrong guy won. I did have the 5th round at 10-8. I thought he did enough in that position against the cage with the hand trapped or the arm trapped. I think he can feel very hard done by, especially with the announcement afterwards, straight after from Dana White, that it's he's basically forgotten about, and forget about that guy. we're moving on. Obviously adds a mystique to the UFC light heavyweight belt. I don't know what the fuck's going on. Like, we talked about it, the kind of lack of reason behind what's going on, but it seems to have gone to another level. You know, I think Dana for years would say, "Oh, I don't make fights straight after," but he seemed to make this fight. You know, Glover seemed to be calling for a different fight. Everybody's calling for a different fight on Twitter, and nobody seems to know what's going on. And then I don't know what is going on. I know you're big on you made a prediction, and we'll probably talk about this, but even for you, I don't think this is what you expected, or the meritocracy that doesn't exist, even pretending to be observed.
Funnily enough, and I might get up this clip, but we talked about this in the preview show, and I think I might have said we could have Glover Teixeira fighting Jamal Hill for like the title in the middle. I think I said something like that. Genuine, like, you never know what's going to happen here. You really, really never know. And do you know why this is a weird one, right? Because
how did you predict that if you thought this was going to be a draw? Or
I don't know. I was predicting draws all over the place this weekend, but I don't. Maybe I didn't say exactly that. But I did say Jamal Hill might get into a title shot because of the injuries and stuff. But like Dana White said in the press conference afterwards, he stopped watching the fight after the 3rd round. The fight was just going around the third, just getting going.
That was the most interesting part.
It was the most interesting part. It was
bizarre. Can he finish him with the leg kicks? Can Ankalaev's forward pressure take away the leg kick? That was
so bizarre. So bizarre altogether. But look, would I want to see a rematch of this fight? Yeah, I suppose I would. This is where it felt like a post-slim. Like Paddy Pimblett was the main event of this. This just felt like, we have to stay up and watch another fucking 5 rounds of this stuff.
We have to watch this. Do we have to watch this UFC light heavyweight championship fight?
This is fucking Amasov versus Storley in Dublin in a few months' time. That's exactly what this is. After Peter Queally or someone fights, like, no one will give a shit about it. It was just a kind of a weird fight to watch, all in all. But yeah, to be honest,
I actually enjoyed the fight, even though
it wasn't a bad fight.
It wasn't a great fight by any stretch of any imagination, but just the way it was kind of, on a knife edge, due to the leg kind of. Ankalaev looked like, the way he reacted, it looked like the leg was gone. And then I looked at the other leg was damaged as well. So you're like, oh shit. And then can he even use his legs here to get the takedowns? And, he kept at it, and, he did a really good job of overcoming. It definitely wasn't Dana's not wrong in saying it wasn't a great fight or anything, but it definitely wasn't the biggest stinker as Dana made it out to be.
No, this is the most I've ever been impressed with Ankalaev, to be honest. I think he showed great heart. He was, Blachowicz is a tough guy to fight and a very, very good fighter.
Fight IQ was very good, yeah.
Yeah, it was, but then he got to the 3rd round or the 4th round, he was so tired. He kept giving up the takedowns over and over. And like a part of that was Ankalaev pushing the pace, and he had to push the pace. I think I think Joe Rogan called it very well, and maybe it was Cormier when they said, look, Ankalaev has kind of changed his game plan here to not allow Blachowicz to set and kick that leg, and it was really smart, and he didn't get any more leg kicks for the rest of the fight, and it was a really, really good in-fight switch-up, and that was the reason he won the fight 100%, he didn't win the fight, but that was the reason he got the draw. He didn't lose the fight.
He did really though.
Yeah, I know, honestly, like, on live watch, I had it 3-2 to Ankalaev. Going back watching the first round, I had a 3-2 to Blachowicz. So, and I can see a 10-8 in the fifth. And if you had it that card, you know it's a draw. So, this is not a controversial one at all. They're so like the first and the fifth are very, very understandable.
It's a bit controversial in fairness, but
not really.
Maybe
though.
It's
Like
not a robbery, but I think.
But if you think about it in the hard light of day, the first round was close. The fifth round could have been a 10-8. And I think the third round was very close as well. People are kind of forgetting all the shots Ankalaev landed in third. I do think Blachowicz won it. But this was not a robbery by any means. There shouldn't be any controversy around this one. Like the Pimblett one a little bit different. I think if you're, like, as I said, if you're scoring that the right way, I think Jared Gordon's big shots in that first round should score, more highly than they did or whatever. But yeah, this one was a little bit different. But look, we move on and we'll talk about, if people are just tuning into this and haven't seen the press conference, as Graeme said, Dana White announced Jamal Hill versus Glover Teixeira will fight for the title, which these two lads fought for in Brazil in a couple of months' time. So that should be interesting. Right, let's move on. And before we move on, Graeme, let me just mention our good friends over at NordVPN. We'll be talking about Bellator in a minute, and that's how I watch Bellator this week with NordVPN, because you can't watch it in my part of the world. You needed to VPN over to Canada and watch it on YouTube there. So I always get frustrated when I can't watch live sporting events because they aren't televised and available in the country. And NordVPN allows you to switch your virtual location to a country that is showing the sports event I want to watch, and for this case it was Bellator at the weekend, so you don't miss out on the action. We're also on the brink of a global recession. The world is going a bit crazy. You need to cut back on spending and save some money while protecting yourself online. NordVPN really helps everyone save money as well as protecting from cybercrime. You could change your virtual location and sign up for subscription services from other countries and pay a cheaper price. For example, you can sign up Netflix while being virtually in Mexico, and it's much cheaper than the US and UK. I must do that myself. You can book flights as well and holidays via another country and pay less, and NordVPN essentially pays for itself with those savings. If you're in America as well, and the PFL finale was a couple of weeks ago, if that comes up again, it was free over here and in the UK as well. You could have just watched it on YouTube with NordVPN and absolutely saved yourself on that. Cybercrime is becoming a bigger thing as well, and around Christmas it's massive, and NordVPN is a one-stop shop for all things cyber security related. It's incredibly easy for anyone to use. It's just a click and you're protected. You don't have to be a tech genius to use it with NordVPN account. You can have up to 6 devices protected. You no longer have to worry about hackers, malicious sites and pop-ups. For the price of one coffee a month, you have the peace of mind and knowing that your devices and your data is protected. So really good stuff there from NordVPN. It's the price, as I said, of a cup of coffee a month, a small price to pay for your premium cybersecurity and access to a vast amount of entertaining content from all over the world. So grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/SevereMMA to get an absolutely massive discount off your NordVPN plan and 4 months free. It's completely risk-free with NordVPN's 30-day money-back guarantee. So it's an exclusive deal. nordvpn.com/SevereMMA. nordvpn.com/SevereMMA. Try it risk-free now with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Right, let's finish the rest of this card. Ponzinibbio, 2 rounds down. Thank God we don't have open scoring, because Alex Morona kept fighting in the third round and got knocked out by Ponzinibbio. Poor old Alex Morona. Yeah,
he was doing a really good job up until the third round.
He was.
Coming in on short notice and frustrating Ponzinibbio, just kind of staying away from his power hand, staying busy, lying on his feet, landing shots. But yeah, Ponzinibbio has power, and he landed power, and when he did, he has the killer instinct, and we've seen it before. In fights maybe that you think we're slipping away from Ponzinibbio, and he has a way of finding that power. And I thought it was a good stoppage by the ref. I agree. Yeah. Morona was kind of complaining a little bit, but yeah, no, I think he just would have got coffin nailed if the ref had let it gone any longer. So yeah, that was a good stoppage there.
Very good stoppage in my opinion. Yeah. Duplessis and Darren Till then. This was. God. I was going full Prince Nazim Hamed watching this. I was like, you just need to retire, Darren. And it wasn't great viewing if you're a Darren Till.
Oh, but he absolutely blew it at the same time.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
The first round, I don't know what he was doing. I thought the ref was getting a bit too close too early, but Darren Till was just doing absolutely nothing except eating punches and talking to the ref. It's just, what are you doing? But Duplessis tired himself out and was there for the taking in the second round. And even in the third round, if Darren Till why isn't he sprawling? It's just unbelievable. He's falling into the dead space on his shots and just so sloppy. I don't know. Just a terrible, terrible performance by Darren Till.
Yeah, he did. He said he injured his knee in the second.
Yeah. Well, what about the first? Oh,
exactly. Yeah, it just wasn't good from Darren Till. As you said, that fight could have been tough. I think it was Mark Spitt was a referee, and he's just not a good referee. I absolutely hate referees that involve themselves in the fight too much. If the fight needs to be stopped, go in and fucking stop it. Stop standing there near him fucking shadowing him. I fucking hate it. I really hate referees like that. They changed an outcome of a fight. They really do. Like the Reese McKee-Burlinson fight as well. I remember that the referee was he didn't make it.
He got a move or whatever, and then he ended up in a worse position just because of that. Let the fight happen, and then if the guy's not defending himself, call it off.
I fucking hate that shit. I really you should just be there to do the bare minimum. Stay away from the fucking fight. Just stay away from it and let him fight. But anyway,
it's like in rugby when the ref starts fucking coaching the scrum and
that's so weird.
Just let them make the mistake and then give the penalty. Stop coaching them.
Absolutely, I fucking hate that. You see someone like Mark Goddard. I think he used to be a little bit like that, but he's gotten a lot quieter in fights now and says a lot less. And he's the best referee in the world. There's no doubt about it. Now he's right up there himself and Jason Herzog, the best referees in the world. And they don't say half as much as these other guys are get so involved. Oh, it's so annoying. But anyway, yeah, Darren Till, Duplessis basically bait the head off him for the whole of the first round.
Homer Simpson job there. From
it was. And until
and it fucking should have worked as well. It actually should have worked.
It should have worked, yeah. Duplessis was so tired in the second round. Until was landing a few shots. Lovely step in elbows he was landing all the time. He did catch his knee under him, but gave up those takedowns so easy in the third round. And
he didn't even try to sprawl. It was
no.
I actually don't think he tried to sprawl once in that fight. It's just unbelievable, really.
What do you think of the submission?
I think he just gave up. I know. I don't really like to say that, to be honest. But
he did. Yeah, 100%.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Our job here is to call the facts of how we see it, and there was another fight. The next fight we'll talk about, I think something similar actually happened, but. Darren Till looked for a way out here, and he gave up his neck. Didn't even give up the neck, really. He was a neck.
And if he had torn his ACL again, and maybe you're just,
you want out of there, yeah.
Mentally
100%,
beaten and physically, you just don't want your knee getting. Maybe it was a good decision to.
But it went so give quickly up there. You know what I mean? Well. It went so quickly because he still had a chance to win the fight and all, or get the draw, or maybe because I think there was a couple of 10 and I predicted draw, and it was so almost the draw. But yeah. Yeah, not great. From a lad who talks so much about being the toughest in the world and all, and it's easy for me to say sitting here, but we have to call the facts as well. That's what happened. But anyway, it's a long road back for Darren Till. Duplessis is just not that good of a fighter either. He just isn't. I don't think but at middleweight you never know. But
he's what he's saying during the commentary, he told us he doesn't get tired. It's just he was breathes like that for some reason when his output is high.
Yeah, me too.
I think that's called breathing heavy and being tired.
It is indeed. Ilia Topuria, though, people talk about top prospects and people coming through. My God, what a fucking fighter Ilia Topuria is.
I picked him to win, and but he absolutely fucking made a he made a fucking, I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but he destroyed Bryce Mitchell, unbelievable. I thought Bryce Mitchell would cause him some trouble and maybe even get a couple of takedowns, but he just got absolutely blitzed. It was just a absolutely brilliant performance from Topuria. If you're going to have one critique, maybe he needs to throw 90% or 95% instead of 100% into everything and maybe get himself a little bit out of shape. But
yeah,
I suppose when you have the guy like hurt like that, and kind of crumbling like that, then obviously maybe, you know, you go hell for leather. And
how much of that,
unbelievable.
I wonder how much of that was actually the opponent in terms of it was Bryce Mitchell. You know, you have to try to knock this guy out because he's wrestling so good. Like, if you fought Max Holloway, I don't think he'd fight that way. You know, I think he'd hold back a little bit more. We've seen in the past he fights differently against other people. I think against Bryce Mitchell, you probably kind of have to, as the dog chimes in there. But just a brilliant performance. Fought out of that low stance, just beat him up, landing that left hook over and over, landing the jabs down through the middle, the right hands over the top. Mitchell almost got him down a couple of times, but it was no good. He was just a far superior fighter. And in the end, the fight kind of half went to the ground, and you're looking at it, and Bryce Mitchell has absolutely ragdolled people around before. And Topuria ragdolled him to the ground. Absolutely just decimated him on the ground and ended up tapping him. Like another one where, you know, the choke was kind of half in.
Okay, you win.
Yeah, okay, exactly. That was kind of it. Bryce Mitchell, he had the fight beaten out of him, and he made him quit. And Topuria kind of said that, you know, he said, he called him, he said, he's a coward and he's going to quit. No, he's not a coward, but he beat the fight out of him and he made him quit. And what a performance. Like, to do that to someone like Bryce Mitchell, who you could say a lot of things about Bryce Mitchell, you know, but he's a very tough guy. He's a very talented wrestler. And Topuria just made mincemeat out of him, just took away his wrestling, destroyed him on the feet, didn't beat him wrestling, and then submitted him with an arm triangle. Exceptional stuff. Very, very good stuff. Right. Raul Rosas Jr. then.
He looked really good for an 18-year-old, you know. And obviously, it's not the highest level opponent. Like a guy who's, I don't think he's ever won the UFC, but he's an experienced guy, you know, his 17th fight, and this guy's only 18. Hopefully they have to take the slow road with him. But he's Mexican, which is obviously something that the UFC will be looking at and thinking that's a good little box we have to tick off with this guy. So yeah, I can see this guy, you know, getting some favorable matchups, and if this fight is anything to go by, I see him looking like a really, really good prospect. Obviously, you know, it's hard to take much from such a dominant performance when we haven't seen much of him before. Well, I haven't seen anything of him before anyway, but yeah, for an 18-year-old, that was a phenomenal performance and a phenomenal UFC debut. Yeah, it was very, very good. It's interesting though, like, it's hard to analyze the guy because, you know, he's fighting obviously a very, very, very bad opponent in Jay Perrin, and he's very correct opponent though to be fighting. Absolutely. But the one thing I would say here now, this feels like I'm a curmudgeon, right? But we can't just say he's good because he's 18, right? Now, he does look good, to be honest. But we say he has loads of potential. Absolutely, loads of potential. We'll see if he'll get there. But, you know, let's just not say he's great because he's young, because he's the youngest fighter and all of that. Let's watch him over the next while and let's see how good he becomes, and let's see how good, you know, he actually is. But he does absolutely looks a top prospect. Looks, you know, 7-0 coming through. Looks very, very good. But just, you know, sometimes that's just kind of a warning. I don't want to be a curmudgeon. I don't want to be a prick about it or anything like that. But just sometimes. Did you see his fight against Mando Gutierrez, a cage or not cage, contender series? I did. I can't remember either. I don't know. I watched so many fights this time, but anyway, look, very, very good fighter. Very, very good prospect, and it'll be interesting to see. It's just like the only thing I'm kind of not worried about, but wary of is the level, right? So it's hard to know what level someone is going to get to. Like, if let's say Paddy Pimblett, right, he's 23 fights into his career or whatever, we kind of know what level he's going to get to. You look at, say, a guy coming through in Cage Warriors, and let's say he's 15-2 or something like that. You can kind of have an idea of between age and experience and all that, what kind of level he's going to get to. We're also assuming he's so young, and like he could go on the beer and fucking, you know, he could be looking like me in 2 years. It's tough to know. It's really tough to know. But look, it's not like Makaev or somebody where, you know, he's got 20 amateur fights, or like, you know, the top level of amateur that you have a kind of more to judge him on. But yeah, it's definitely, you know, I can see why people would get excited about an 18-year-old 100%. They should. Listing somebody like that. And it's good for the sport to have these kind of storylines. 100%. Fair play to them. Jairzinho also struck in. Fair play to Jairzinho as well. 23 seconds. Went in there and absolutely destroyed Chris Dawkins. Landed a lovely kind of forward-going left hand. It's funny, sometimes Jairzinho just comes in there and does nothing. But he did a lot in this one. Edmund Shabazi, and this was good matchmaking as well. Do you know what? These two fights, two kind of layup fights, two tune-up fights. Love it.
let's do that. Let's do more of that in the UFC. More tune-up fights like this. Absolutely love it. Edmund Shabazian came in there and he beat up Dalche Ligambula. Did get hit at one stage, but most of the fight he kind of won it. Chris Curtis looked good here as well. Beat Jaquim Buckley. Ironically, he caught the leg and knocked out Jaquim Buckley after, Jaquim Buckley had the best
viral
knockout in UFC history, catching the leg and wheel kicking in the Impe Kasanganai, which was absolutely fantastic. Billy Q then looked really, really good here, I thought. Alexander Hernandez is getting to Ben Saunders levels of like starting well and then fading almost immediately in the second round. Like, that's just the fighter he is now, and he's very exciting, very, very fun. But Billy Q is a good fighter. I like Billy Q. I like his personality and I like his fight style. He gives it. I think Billy Q is like the future Joe Lozon or Jim Miller or whatever. A guy that's going to be around for a long time, fighting at that top 25 level, win some, lose some, probably win two and lose one type of fighter, but very entertaining and a good guy to have on the card as well. So I'm impressed with him. What's TJ Brown's nickname again? It was the best, a good nickname. I like down TJ Brown. I love that, and he had a good win. And then the worst nickname of all time in the opening fight was Obi-Wan Shinobi the Pillow, Stephen Kozla. Just terrible nickname. But,
which is, I don't know what's going on there.
But Cameron Simon beat him anyway and won that fight. There was what wasn't there in that? Where are my notes gone? I don't know, I lost my notes. There was a low blow on that one, wasn't there? And there was a point taken and all of that sort of malarkey. So fair play to them. Very, very good stuff. Congratulations to all you lads. We'll move on. We'll go forward. Right, let's talk a little bit about Bellator, Graeme. Bellator 289, the last Bellator standalone fight night of the year. They have the other one coming up with Risen in a while. I'll have a preview coming out for that in Sherdog and stuff, and we'll talk about it in this. But they're actually them fights. I know a lot of people don't know them, and I don't know them. I went back and watched a good few of their fights this week. The lads that are fighting, and they're actually not bad, to be fair. So they should be fun fights. But on Friday night we had 3 big fights in this. Just under that, maybe quickly, Casbell and Jared Scoggins fought. It was a split decision win for Casbell. Brian Moore's always talking about fighting Casbell, so that's a fight that could happen again. Mike Lombardo looked very good. He knocked out Mark Limminger. Kai Kameka, the third, who I found out follows me on Twitter, very, very good. Technical display from him there, looked good. What the biggest shock of the weekend, maybe the biggest shock in MMA this year in terms of the betting lines, Pat Downey got sparked by Christian Eccles. Pat Downey, who's the NCAA wrestler, I interviewed him a while back. He was talking about representing Ireland and wrestling and all. Striking looked woeful. He went for a takedown, almost submitted Eccles, then Eccles hit him with a big right hook, I believe it was, and then knocked him spark out with an uppercut. It was another one. It was one of those fights, right, where it's a wrestler who's never been punched in the face before, gets punched once and then just kind of starts backing up at a rate of knots and gets uppercutted into oblivion. Very close decision between Chris Lencioni and Cody Law. I thought Law won 30-27, right? That was the card I gave, but I was delighted to see he didn't because it was all wrestling, it was all kind of holding. There wasn't much from Lencioni, but I like fights scored that way, so I'm glad my score was wrong. Jaleel Willis looked brilliant against Kyle Crutchmere. Very good performance against the wrestler Crutchmere. Iliwe Joanna against Denise Keelholz. Another close decision. I'll tell you what, it was a fucking very tough night for the poor old judges at Bellator. We talk about the UFC, there was a lot of close decisions. I thought Keelholz just about won it. Very close fight though. Absolutely no robbery there or anything, without a shadow of a doubt. Dalton Rostan and Anthony Adams, then a bit of a stinker of a fight until the last 90 seconds. Rostan won it, and then the top 3 fights. Graeme, Patchy Mix. I think Patchy Mix is a better fighter than I ever thought he would be, to be honest.
Yeah, I was literally going to say I need to stop underestimating Patchy Mix because he keeps getting it done. I thought he's going to lose this fight, and this is a huge win and a really, really good performance. He's not just a submission guy. He looked pretty good on the feet as well, but his submission and his grappling he looks like a real finisher on the ground, and we don't really see that too often anymore. Like most guys are kind of able to defend the basic submissions pretty well, and he just seems to be able to get it done. And he's a tricky matchup for anybody. And this is going to be a really interesting matchup next. We'll obviously go on to talk about the main event, but yeah, patchy mix. Like I think, you know, he's another fighter that I've kind of maybe, as you said there, underestimated, and you know, he definitely put some respect on his name. Is that what they say?
Yeah, indeed, 100%. Like, I think his striking has improved an awful lot. He's devastating with his jiu-jitsu on the ground. I know we always say like jiu-jitsu by itself is not going to work, but I think the fact that his striking has improved so much, forcing lads to wrestle and then kind of setting them up with the guillotines and different things.
Yeah, and now guys are going to know how good you are on the ground and be afraid to, you know. Yeah, that's huge. You know, he looks a real handful. He really does.
Yeah, he 100% does. Liz Carmouche, then she retained her title against Juliana Velasquez. This was a real stinker of a 2-rounder until the very end. You know, you look at it and you know, to kind of go through the fight, Liz Carmouche got a clinch immediately, stayed there for ages. Kevin McDonald, who I've criticised before, actually had a great night here. Before that, he had 2 very good stoppages in the earlier fights. He eventually broke this up, but God almighty, just did not an awful first round. The second round, Liz got a takedown immediately. They got up, clinch, takedown again, nothing for ages again. And it was one of those ones, Graeme, I don't know if you would agree with me or not, and I haven't seen anyone else saying this. There was nothing for ages and ages and ages. And I think it was on the point of where the referee was just about to stand them up. And I think Velasquez was kind of waiting for it. And as she was waiting for it, Carmouche got the mount. It was like it was undefended for a second, and she just mounted her, and from there she got the armbar. Lovely finish, armbar. But yeah, it was a lovely finish and all. But it was one that was like, it wasn't controversial per se. It wasn't controversial, but it was like not 100% clean either, in my opinion. Now maybe I'm wrong. What did you think of it?
I don't know. I think it's more of a thing where you're just kind of in the same position for a long time, and you kind of got caught unawares. You know, you gotta, you know, as they say, play to the whistle in football, and it's a mistake. And yeah, I think, you know, Liz capitalized on it very well. But yeah, it was a bad fight, and it was you know, Velasquez didn't look good. Liz didn't look great either. But she got the job done, and she got the second win in a row. So yeah, you know, a forgettable fight really. But yeah, I don't think there was anything, you know, dodgy or anything like that.
Yeah, fair play to Liz Carmouche. That's coming up on the 10-year anniversary of the Ronda Rousey fight. Now she's out there armbarring people all over the place. So it's great to see, and I feel great for Liz Carmouche. Tough road back though for Velasquez after that. Yeah,
things could have been very different if she got that rear naked choke that Ronda bit her way out of
it. Yeah, fair play to her. Could have been very different. And then we the main events between Stotts and Sabatello. A very interesting fight. I'll run through it very, very quickly here if people didn't see it. So there was nearly takedown for Sabatello, took the back, but never fully controlled, and that was kind of the theme of the fight. He got takedowns, he got control-ish, but never fully controlled. There was always Stotts like leaning on an arm or pulling his way out, never letting Sabatello get in a submission attempt, or never letting him land massive shots. And there were a couple of times, but landed on top, but Stotts immediately reverses and got back up. The second round, Stotts was kind of biting on everything, waiting for the takedown. But there was a big punch after a ball kick, which Sabatello was like, no, he didn't kick me in the balls. And then Stotts immediately punched him in the face. And then the referee was like, well, you asked for it, kind of job. And he stopped 2 takedowns after that. And that was a real turning point, I think, in the fight. Landed a lovely uppercut to Stotts. There was a bit of a clinch. There was a body lock takedown for Danny Sabatello. He made it look easy. But he got into guard. Lots of scrambles. But Danny did very little on the ground, just landed almost nothing, and there was a knee bar towards the end for Stotts. I thought it was 1-1 after that. I did think Stotts was winning even without the knee bar, but the knee bar secured it for him, in my opinion. In round 3, there was a grounded knee, an illegal one, but they kept going after that. Easily stopped 2 takedowns, did Stotts, landing the shots going forward. There was a takedown for Stotts even in the middle of it as well. There was some scrambles. He got the side control, got up with a few knees and a few scrambles again. Pretty clear Stotts round. I thought through 3 rounds this wasn't that hard of a fight to judge, to be honest. At the first round for Sabatello, the next 2 for Stotts. In the third, wrestling ensued very, very quickly. Danny nearly got that choke. It was a nice choke. Stotts scrambled well though. It was there was a look at a dart, didn't get it. All control, but nothing really landed. Both landed a few on the feet. An extremely close round. I would give it to Sabatello because he was on top, landing a couple, and it was close everywhere else. that was all I could see to separate him. And in the fifth, Stotts definitely won it. Landed lots of jabs, loads of punches from Stotts in the first 90 seconds. Really ate him up in the first 90 seconds. It was the best part of the fight for him. Sabatello got a few scrambles, almost took the back. But Stotts, it was one of those ones again where he almost took the back and he was like, 75% controlling. But Stotts was just landing these small elbows in this weird position for maybe a minute and a half. And Sabatello did nothing with the position. Did take the back eventually, but it got back to guard and there was exchanges late. A definite Stotts round. He spent 3 minutes of the fight landing strikes. It doesn't matter of the round. It doesn't matter the position it was in. That was a fact of what happened. The judges, two of the best judges in the world, I'll mention them again, Brian Minor and Eric Cologne, scored this exactly correctly. They scored
2, 3, and 5 for Stotts.
2, 3, and 5 for Stotts, yeah. One.
I thought they were all pretty clear Stotts rounds. I don't know what the fuck Douglas Crosby is doing.
Douglas
Just
Crosby,
terrible card from.
Yeah, terrible card.
I don't know. Can you make an argument for? You definitely can't make an argument for all 5 rounds. Could you make an argument for 4? I don't think so.
Which
maybe
4?
3. Maybe 3 if you're stretching it, but 5,
I don't think so.
5, it's pretty outrageous to be honest.
Yeah, look, Douglas Crosby, he's a terrible judge, and you know me now, I don't really criticize judges. I'm very much in favour of the judges, but Douglas Crosby, he has no business judging MMA. Like anyone who's been on those California calls, anyone who's seen his cards down through the years, he kind of judges MMA the way he wants to judge MMA himself, not through the criteria. And to have this 50-45 is just like anti.
What criteria is he going by here? I don't know. Even by your own made up criteria, I don't know how you give 5 rounds to 0.
It was awful. Look, it's just lucky we had 2 great judges in Brian Minor and Eric Cologne here, and we got the right decision. The right guy won. Just such an egregiously terrible card. It's hard to ignore it. But look, the right guy did win, and overall Stotts. It was a very tough matchup for him. Sabatello is a very good fighter. Maybe people kind of forget that sometimes. He's a very, very tough, hard-nosed wrestler, and it was great for Stotts to come through it, and he put on a very, very good, not a good performance. Well, it was a good performance, but not a standout performance, but a battling win, and one where he won the rounds that needed to be won.
Against a difficult style as well.
Yeah, exactly. So very, very good stuff from him.
How do you see Paddy?
I was just about to ask you that tough question. I do think Stotts will win it. I think Stotts is one of the best. No, do you not think so?
I don't know. If Paddy can get him down, Sabatello got him down quite a lot. He is the way he's able to finish people. That's definitely a big threat there. I'm not really sure how this fight is gonna look, but the way Paddy has looked recently, like that Horiguchi fight included, decision, hanging in there for that long and winning against somebody that good. He's definitely the real deal. He's proved it, and he can finish people, and he's a difficult matchup. I know Stotts is definitely a difficult matchup as well, and it's a really good fight. It's worked out kind of perfectly for the tournament for Bellator. This is a fight I'm really excited about. 2 guys who are beating the kind of who's who around them in the final in a really exciting matchup that it's hard to kind of foresee how the fight is going to look. So yeah, this is one of them I'm definitely looking forward to. Hopefully we don't get any major injuries.
Oh God, why would you say that?
Because it's MMA and this is fucking all nice things get taken away.
It is it is indeed. Let's look ahead to next week. We have a UFC fight night. We have KSW as well. Just first of all, quickly on KSW, I'll have a preview coming out for it during the week, and I'm sure Sean Dean will have a preview up on SevereMMA.com as well. Mariusz Pudzianowski against Mamed Khalidov. What a fucking fight this is. Who do you think will win, Graeme? Pudzianowski or Khalidov? Pudzianowski knocked out Materla.
Surely.
Oh, I don't know. Pudzianowski knocked out Materla in his last fight. He's a very good fighter.
Yeah. I don't know. Surely Khalidov will have the speed advantage here and be able to do enough.
Is that the same with Materla? I don't know.
I know, but yeah.
I agree with you. I
find it hard to pick Pudzianowski here, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Khalidov will win, but a very good fight, and one that, any MMA fan will have to tune in for. The 135-pound title is on the line, as well as the 205-pound title. Sebastian Purubska against Jakub Viklak, and Ibrahim Shigodayev against Ivan Erzlan. Absolutely pronounce all of those names perfectly. Emil Weber-Meck is on the card as well, as is Carl McNally, Ireland's own Carl McNally, who's 2-0. We all, we know him from the viral clips with his great submissions and everything like that. So a very good KSW card.
Yeah, and he's fighting a guy who's 1-0, but I was looking at his record, and he's been fighting MMA as an amateur since 2016, and he's undefeated. 7 or 6-0 at amateur, and won his debut. So, it's hard to know, having not seen this guy, but Carl's starting off his pro career as well, so it seems like this could be an interesting one. It's hard to know how it's going to go, but as you said, Carl's kind of that Rolling Thunder armbar from a few years ago that kind of went semi-viral or whatever. He's known for kind of taking risks and throwing a bit outrageous strikes and stuff like that, so he's always an interesting one to watch if you haven't seen him before.
100%, yeah, very, very, very interesting, very good KSW card. The very good UFC card as well next week, headlined by Jared Cannonier versus Sean Strickland, but
very good, you think? Yeah.
I think it is. Like, for a fight night card, I think Saryukin versus Ishmagulov is a very good fight. I like
Sean, 5 years ago, if I had come to you with this card, what?
Well, I think it's good. I like Bobby Green versus Drew Dober. I like Caceres versus Erosa. I don't
know. There is some good fights on it, but very good card.
For a fight night card.
Usually, I'm used to you shitting all over a fight night card. So maybe just took me by surprise.
I don't know. I like Manel Cape. I've always liked him. He's on the card. There are Saeed Nurmagomedov's on the card.
Bobby Green's a bit of crack. Erosa,
Jake Matthews of also
Leroy's a bit of crack as well. Yeah.
For a fight night card, it is a good fight night card, to be fair now. But we'll never know. I thought this wasn't the best pay per view, and it was one of the best pay per views of the year. So who knows? But
that main event, though, Sean Strickland, if he has it his way, it might put a bit of dampener on the card by the end of the night.
Yeah, I don't know. You never know with old Shawnee Strickland. I would think Cannonier, but like the thing about Cannonier is as well, like, if he can land a big shot, he'd probably knock him out, I would say. But can he land that big shot? I don't know.
Strickland's going to try and drag it out and trying to make it. He's going to try and take it 5 rounds probably.
Yeah. Sure, we'll see.
I don't have too high hopes for this fight.
No, and the lads will have the preview show as well. I'm sure they're gonna wax lyrical about Saryukin and his Magulov. That's a very, very, very high level fight. And Amir Albazi's a good fighter as well.
It has a win over Ryan Curtis. Been on tear, looking really good.
Yeah.
Maybe this card is a bit better than.
No, there you go.
I first said.
Right, we leave it there. Very long podcast this week. Thanks to everyone for listening. Graeme, send us out. Patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast. NordVPN. What is it? NordVPN.com/SevereMMA. Manscaped.com. Use the promo code SevereMMA as well. Graeme, give us a quote.
Football's coming home.
It's coming home.
It's coming home. Come on, Harry. Harry Maguire and Harry Kane. Both ends. They're doing a great service. Doing a great service.
Jules are still gleaming.
Good old Gary.
66 years of hurt. Thanks, everyone. Good luck. Sorry, English people. Bye.